The Frankfurt deal was finally closed. 6 grueling days of negotiations, and Sarah had secured the European expansion her boss had been chasing for 2 years. Her body ached from the 9-hour flight, but triumph pulsed through her as she steered her rental car toward their suburban home. Her suitcase waited in the trunk. She'd texted Mark that she'd be home by dinner, knowing he'd want to hear about her trip and probably order takeout to celebrate. After 7 years of building her career from entry-level to senior marketing executive, this deal represented everything she'd worked toward. The setting sun painted their familiar neighborhood in amber hues as she turned onto Maple Street. She pulled into their driveway, noticing Mark had finally trimmed the overgrown bushes flanking the garage. Little victories. Her black pumps pinched as she stepped out, smoothing her charcoal pencil skirt. The flight had wrinkled her silk blouse, but she still looked every inch the senior executive who'd just landed a career-making deal. She smiled, fishing the garage remote from her purse. Her 1969 Mustang Boss 429 waited inside, safer than street parking while she traveled. The same model Grandpa had restored when she was 9, teaching her that cars weren't just transportation, but dreams made solid. The familiar click as she pressed the button. The mechanical whir as the door lifted. Then nothing but empty space where her car should be. No, no, no. The words tumbled out as her stomach plummeted. The garage stretched before her, barren except for Mark's mountain bike and storage boxes. Her fingers went numb. The remote clattered to the concrete as she dropped her suitcase and rushed toward the house. This couldn't be happening. Not her car. Not her Mustang. She burst through the side door into the kitchen. Mark sat at their kitchen table, hands clasped, wearing the same expression he'd worn when he told her his real estate license was suspended last year. The silence hit her first, then the guilt radiating from his slouched shoulders. He couldn't meet her eyes, staring instead at his wedding ring. "Sarah, honey." His voice carried that careful tone he used when breaking bad news. "Don't overreact. Where's my car?" The words scraped her throat. Mark straightened his shoulders, confidence plastered on his face like one of his sales presentations. "It's just temporary, babe. I'll pay it all back." "Pay what back?" Her voice dropped dangerously low. "Where's my Mustang?" Mark glanced toward the living room, where she now noticed women's clothing draped over the couch, clothing that wasn't hers. A yoga mat leaned against the wall. Someone else's purse sat on the coffee table. "We had to make a tough decision, Sarah." Mark finally spoke, his voice rough. Jessica needed startup capital for her business, and Jessica? The name hit like a physical blow. Who the hell is Jessica? A young woman emerged from their hallway, wearing nothing but Mark's old college t-shirt. Blonde, mid-20s, with the toned physique of someone who'd never worked a desk job in her life. She moved with the confidence of someone who belonged here. "I'm Jessica." She extended her hand like they were meeting at a cocktail party. "Mark's told me so much about you." The room tilted sideways. "You sold my car to your mistress?" "It's not like that." Mark jumped in. "Jessica's opening a yoga studio. It's an investment opportunity." The car was just sitting there. Sarah's mind flashed to the endless nights she'd spent hunched over marketing campaigns. 70-hour weeks for 7 years straight. Saying no to vacations, to designer clothes, to everything while she saved every bonus, every raise. She remembered Grandpa's weathered hands guiding hers over the engine of his friend's Mustang when she was 9. These machines aren't just transportation, Sarah girl. They're dreams made solid. His eyes had crinkled with absolute certainty. "Someday you'll have your own beauty. Just be patient." The day she'd finally driven her Mustang home, tears had streamed down her face. Not just for the glossy red paint or the rumble of the engine, but for what it represented. Proof that her sacrifices meant something. "My yoga studio is going to be revolutionary," Jessica was saying, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "I've developed a whole mind-body wellness program that I don't care if you've discovered the fountain of youth." Sarah's voice cut through her pitch. "That car wasn't yours to take." Mark's face reddened. "I'm your husband, Sarah. What's yours is mine. We're supposed to be a team." "A team?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "When was the last time you contributed to our mortgage? Our groceries? Anything?" Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out automatically, glancing at the notification. Her insurance company alerting her to a title transfer. Ice replaced the fire in her veins. "You forged my signature." It wasn't a question. "The paperwork needed both names," Mark started. You committed fraud. She pulled up the insurance app, her hands trembling. You added your name to my title without my knowledge. Technically, we're married, so get out. Her voice was steadier than she felt. Both of you, get out of my house. Your house. Jessica laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Mark told me this was his family home. I've been paying the mortgage for 3 years, she said, each word deliberate. Since Mark's real estate career went nowhere. Jessica's confidence faltered as she looked between them. Mark, you said you were successful. 30 days, Sarah said, grabbing her suitcase. You have 30 days to return my car, or I'm pressing charges for fraud and theft. Charges, Mark gasped. Against your own husband? Husbands don't steal from each other. She turned toward the door. 30 days. Their shocked expressions followed her as she walked out, slamming the door with enough force to rattle the wedding photos on the wall. Photos that suddenly seemed like fiction, smiling faces hiding the truth that in this marriage, her dreams had always been considered disposable. The lawyer's office reeked of expensive leather and subtle desperation. Sarah straightened her blazer, trying to look like a woman who belonged here rather than one whose world was collapsing. Her reflection in the conference room window showed mascara tracks she'd missed washing away that morning. Mrs. Mitchell, attorney Karen Walsh, slid paperwork across the mahogany table. Her voice carried the practiced authority of someone who witnessed marital catastrophes daily. Your husband sold the vehicle 5 days ago for $85,000, which he then transferred to a Jessica Chun for her business venture. Sarah scanned the documents, her finance training kicking in automatically. He used my car as collateral for additional loans? $50,000 in business loans, Karen confirmed. Plus, he's been using joint credit cards to fund the affair for 8 months. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry, $30,000 in charges you didn't authorize. Sarah's stomach twisted as she flipped to the next page. There it was, her signature. Except it wasn't hers. The forgery was close enough to fool the DMV, but missed the slight flourish she always made on the final H. This isn't my signature. Karen's expression shifted slightly. Mrs. Mitchell, if you're alleging fraud, I'm not alleging. I'm stating. Sarah pulled out her driver's license, then a recent work contract. Compare them. She studied the signatures, discomfort growing visible. This is a felony. Identity theft, fraud, potentially more depending on what else we uncover. What are my options? Criminal charges, which could send your husband to prison for 2 to 5 years. Or divorce proceedings where we pursue maximum financial compensation. Karen tapped her pen against the legal pad. Given the evidence of economic adultery, using marital assets to fund an affair, you could walk away with everything. 20 minutes and one forensic accountant consultation later, the reality settled like concrete in Sarah's chest. Mark hadn't just betrayed her emotionally, he'd committed actual crimes. Federal crimes. We can file police reports right now, Karen offered. The evidence is overwhelming. The word police made Sarah's throat close. I need time to think. Back in her hotel room, she sank onto the bed, still wearing her coat. On the nightstand sat their wedding album, something she'd grabbed in her initial packing frenzy. She pulled it onto her lap, fingers trembling slightly as she flipped through pages of orchestrated memories. There was their engagement party, where Mark charmed everyone with stories of his upcoming real estate empire. She turned the page to find their honeymoon in Italy, funded entirely by her signing bonus at the marketing firm. She flipped forward. Their first anniversary, where she surprised him with tickets to Hawaii. Their second, where he gave her a grocery store bouquet because he forgot, until the last minute. Their third, where she worked through dinner because she was closing the Morrison account. The pattern stretched across years, across milestones, across dreams. Not just subtle neglect, but consistent one-sidedness. Her sacrifices to fund his dreams. Her income to support his entrepreneurial phase. Her success used to mask his failures. Her phone rang, startling her. Her sister Emma's name lit up the screen. I just heard, she said, skipping hello. Jessica posted about her new yoga studio on Instagram. With pictures of your car. She what? The post is still up. She's calling it Namaste Wealthy, using your Mustang as a prop for some manifestation and abundance workshop. Sarah hung up and immediately opened Instagram. There it was, her grandfather's legacy being used to sell $200 yoga classes to suburban housewives. Jessica posed against the hood in designer athleisure, arms spread wide, with the caption, "When you align with your highest self, the universe provides. Grateful for my business partner Mark for making my dreams reality." Sparkle's woman in lotus position money bag. The comments were nauseating. Women praising her success story and asking about private sessions. One comment stopped Sarah's scrolling cold. Sarah__ marketing. That's my car. And my husband. Within minutes, Emma called back. Sarah, don't look at Instagram. Too late. The post went viral. Someone screenshotted your comment before Jessica deleted it. Hashtag #mycarmyhusband is trending. The next morning brought chaos. Sarah's phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, missed calls, and text messages. The story had exploded across social media platforms, with complete strangers dissecting her marriage and offering unsolicited advice. But it was the call from her boss that changed everything. Sarah, I need you in my office. Now. She walked into Bridgewater Marketing's executive floor with her head high, despite the circumstances. Director Palmer sat behind his desk, laptop open, wearing an expression she couldn't read. I've been following your situation online, he said without preamble. The company has a zero-tolerance policy for fraud and criminal activity. Sarah's heart stopped. Sir, I haven't, not you. He turned the laptop screen toward her. Your husband. HR ran a background check when his activities went public. Turns out he's been using your position here to commit additional fraud. The screen showed Mark's recent real estate transactions, or attempted transactions. He'd been telling potential clients that he worked for Bridgewater Marketing, using her credentials and contacts to gain their trust. He defrauded the Hendersons out of $25,000 in earnest money using a fake property listing and your business cards, Palmer continued. When they couldn't reach him, they called here looking for you. The room spun slightly. I had no idea. I know. Which is why legal wants you to press full criminal charges. This goes beyond personal betrayal. He's damaged the company's reputation. 2 hours later, Sarah sat in the police station with Karen Walsh, filing official reports for multiple felonies. The detective assigned to the case, Martinez, reviewed the evidence with growing disgust. Your husband's been busy, he said grimly. Identity theft, wire fraud, business fraud, forgery. We're looking at potentially 20 years if convicted on all counts. What about Jessica? She's culpable for receiving stolen property and participating in fraud. We'll arrest them both this afternoon. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sarah, it's Jessica. We need to talk. Mark lied to me about everything. Can we meet? She showed the message to Detective Martinez. He grinned. Looks like the partnership is falling apart. The coffee shop Jessica chose was trendy and overpriced, exactly what Sarah would expect from someone who thought yoga was a business plan. She was already there when Sarah arrived, wearing simple jeans and a hoodie instead of her usual designer athleisure. Her confidence from their kitchen confrontation had evaporated. I didn't know you existed, she said without preamble. Mark told me he was divorced. Sarah sat across from her, studying her face for deception. She looked genuinely shaken. For 8 months, you thought he was single? He had pictures of you in his wallet, but he said you were his ex-wife who kept stalking him. Her voice cracked. He showed me divorce papers. Fake ones. Jessica nodded miserably, along with fake bank statements showing he was worth millions. He said the Mustang was his, a gift from his grandfather. Despite her anger, Sarah felt a flicker of sympathy. Where's my car now? Sold. Tears spilled down her cheeks. When the business loans came due and the yoga studio equipment was repossessed, I panicked. I sold it to a collector in Phoenix for $60,000. The number hit like a physical blow. You sold an $85,000 car for $60,000? I didn't know its value. Mark handled everything. She removed a tissue from her purse with shaking hands. The collector won't sell it back. I asked. Sarah's phone buzzed with a call from Detective Martinez. Mrs. Mitchell, we have them both in custody. Jessica Chun just turned herself in. She looked across the table at the broken woman who helped destroy her marriage. That was your choice. I know. She stood, shoulders slumped. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I really believed we were building something legitimate. The arraignment hearing was surreal. Mark sat in Orange County jail scrubs, his confident salesman persona replaced by the hollow look of someone whose world had imploded. He kept glancing at Sarah, mouthing, I'm sorry, and please forgive me. Jessica sat at a separate table with a public defender, having been abandoned by her wealthy parents once they learned about the criminal charges. Her yoga instructor certification had been revoked, her social media accounts deleted, her dreams as shattered as the marriage she helped destroy. The charges read like a criminal masterclass: identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, money laundering, and racketeering. The prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 40s, presented evidence methodically. Mr. Mitchell used his wife's identity to obtain loans, credit cards, and business opportunities totaling over $200,000, she explained to the judge. Ms. Chen knowingly participated in money laundering and fraud, using stolen assets to fund an illegal enterprise. Mark's court-appointed lawyer attempted damage control. Your Honor, this was a crime of passion, a marriage falling apart. Mr. Mitchell, the judge interrupted, reading from the case file. You committed premeditated fraud over 8 months. This wasn't passion, it was calculated theft. Bail was set at $100,000 for Mark, $50,000 for Jessica. Neither could make it. They were remanded to county jail pending trial. As Sarah left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. The story had captured national attention. Marketing executive's husband sells dream car for Mistress. Emma appeared at her elbow, pushing through the crowd. How does it feel to see justice served? A reporter shouted. Sarah stopped, looking directly into the camera. It feels like the beginning, not the end. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly once Mark's criminal conviction became final. He pleaded guilty to all charges, receiving 12 years in federal prison. Jessica got 5 years for her cooperation in the investigation. Karen Walsh sat across from Sarah in her conference room, a stack of documents between them. The court awarded you everything, she said with satisfaction. The house, all bank accounts, his retirement funds, even his future earnings for the next 10 years. What about my car? The collector in Phoenix has agreed to sell, but he wants $120,000, 40% above market value because of the media attention. Sarah signed the papers without hesitation. Some things were worth more than money. 3 months later, she stood in a Phoenix warehouse, keys to her grandfather's Mustang finally back in her hand. The collector, surprisingly, turned out to be a car enthusiast who understood the story's significance. I kept her in perfect condition, he said, running his hand along the pristine red paint. Even had the engine rebuilt to original specifications. She's exactly as your grandfather would have wanted. The drive home to Colorado took 2 days, windows down, engine purring. For the first time in months, Sarah felt truly free. Her phone sat silent in the passenger seat. She'd taken a leave of absence from work to heal and plan her next steps. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Sarah's life had transformed completely. The media attention led to unexpected opportunities: book deals, speaking engagements, and consulting offers. Her story resonated with women who'd experienced financial betrayal, and she found purpose in helping others recognize the warning signs. The company holiday gala arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of December evening that felt like possibility. She'd been promoted to Vice President of Strategic Development, recognition not just for the Frankfurt deal, but for the leadership she showed during her personal crisis. She wore a midnight blue dress she bought herself, the first expensive purchase she'd made since recovering her car. No guilt, no second-guessing, just the simple pleasure of wanting something beautiful and having the means to obtain it. Sarah Mitchell? A warm voice interrupted her thoughts at the bar. I'm David Rothschild. I've been following your work since the European expansion. She turned to face a man in his early 40s, dressed in an understated but clearly expensive suit. His smile reached his eyes, and there was no practiced charm in his expression, just genuine interest. Following my work or following my scandal? She asked with a wry smile. He laughed, a rich sound that drew attention from nearby conversations. Your work. The scandal just made me admire your strength even more. They talked for an hour before Sarah realized they'd been standing in the same spot, completely absorbed in conversation. David owned a tech company that went public last year, making him worth considerably more than the millions Mark used to claim. But wealth wasn't what drew her to him. It was the way he listened when she talked about marketing strategy, the respect in his voice when he asked about her grandfather's legacy. Would you like to get coffee sometime? He asked as the evening wound down. Somewhere we can talk without networking interruptions? She studied his face, looking for the calculation that marked all of Mark's interactions. She found only sincerity. I'd like that. Their first official date happened at a small cafe downtown, far from the business world they both inhabited. David arrived in jeans and a casual sweater, driving a modest Tesla instead of the Lamborghini his wealth could afford. "I have a confession," he said over cappuccinos. "I Googled your story before asking you out." Sarah's stomach tightened. "And I wanted to understand what you'd been through. Not to judge, but to make sure I approached this respectfully." He leaned forward slightly. "What your husband did, what they both did, it wasn't about the car, was it?" The insight surprised her. Most people focused on the material loss, the dramatic betrayal. David saw deeper. "It was about respect," she admitted. "About my dreams being disposable to someone who claimed to love me." "Tell me about the car," he said simply. "About your grandfather." She found herself sharing memories she'd rarely spoken aloud. Summers in Grandpa's garage, learning to change oil and adjust carburetors. His stories about buying his first Mustang after returning from Vietnam. The promise he made that someday she'd have one too, if she worked hard and never gave up. "He died when I was 16, she concluded. "Finding that exact model, restoring it myself. It was like completing a conversation we never finished." David nodded thoughtfully. "And Mark took that away to fund someone else's dreams." "Yes." The word came out barely a whisper. "That's unforgivable," he said firmly. "Not the affair, not even the theft. Taking someone's connection to family, to memory, that's unforgivable." Something shifted in Sarah's chest, a loosening she didn't realize was needed. Someone finally understood. Their second date involved David picking her up in his daily driver, a restored 1967 Camaro SS. "I thought you might appreciate the craftsmanship," he said with a grin. The car was magnificent, numbers matching engine, original interior, paint that gleamed like liquid silver. But what moved Sarah was the respect with which he treated it. No showing off, no unnecessary revving. Just the quiet appreciation of someone who understood automotive history. "My father and I restored this together," he explained as they cruised mountain roads. "He died 5 years ago. Sometimes I still hear his voice when I'm working on the engine." Sarah understood perfectly. 3 months into their relationship, David suggested they attend a classic car auction in Scottsdale. "Just for fun," he said. "I promise I won't bid on anything without consulting you first." The auction was automotive paradise, rows of pristine classics, their chrome gleaming under professional lighting. Collectors and enthusiasts milled about with the reverent atmosphere of art gallery patrons. "Lot 147, the auctioneer announced. 1969 Mustang Boss 429, frame-off restoration completed 2019. Sarah's breath caught. It wasn't her car. This one was blue with white racing stripes, but the model was identical. The bidding started at $50,000 and quickly escalated. "Beautiful car," David commented casually, "but not as special as yours." The bidding reached $95,000 before someone won. Sarah watched the new owner's face light up with joy, and for the first time since her betrayal, she felt genuine happiness for someone else's automotive dream. "Would you like to get closer to it?" David asked. Before they move it, they approached the Mustang together. The owner, a man in his 60s, beamed as admirers examined his new prize. "First Boss 429, David asked him. "Third," the man replied proudly. "But this one's for my daughter. She's graduating medical school next month." Sarah thought of her grandfather, of dreams passed between generations, and smiled genuinely for the first time in months. Their relationship deepened gradually, built on shared interests and mutual respect rather than desperate need or financial dependency. David traveled frequently for business, but he included Sarah when possible, treating her as an equal partner rather than decorative accompaniment. 6 months in, he mentioned his philanthropic work almost casually. "I'm starting a foundation to support women entrepreneurs," he said over dinner. "Too many brilliant women can't access capital because they don't fit traditional investor profiles." "Like Jessica thought she was doing?" Sarah asked, the name still leaving a bitter taste. "No." David shook his head firmly. "Jessica was using someone else's money to fund a fantasy. Real entrepreneurship requires personal sacrifice, detailed planning, and ethical behavior." He slid a folder across the table. "I was hoping you might consider joining the board." Your marketing expertise and personal experience with financial betrayal could help us identify legitimate ventures. Sarah flipped through the proposal, impressed by the thoroughness. You want me to help evaluate loan applications? I want you to help build something meaningful, he corrected. Something that honors legitimate dreams instead of enabling delusions. The irony wasn't lost on her, using her experience with theft to help prevent others from becoming victims. But there was poetry in it too, transformation of pain into purpose. A year after their first meeting, David proposed during a weekend trip to Napa Valley. They were standing in a vineyard at sunset, the valley golden beneath them, when he got down on one knee. "Sarah," he began, voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "you've shown me what partnership really means. Not financial dependence or emotional manipulation, but true partnership. Two people building something together while respecting each other's individual dreams." The ring was stunning but not ostentatious. A vintage setting with her birthstone surrounded by small diamonds. Clearly chosen with thought rather than purchased for maximum impact. "Will you marry me?" Sarah looked at this man who'd spent a year proving his character through actions rather than words. Who'd never once made her feel guilty for her past or pressured her to get over her betrayal. Who'd helped her heal without trying to fix her. "Yes," she whispered, and then louder, "Yes." Their wedding 6 months later was everything hers and Mark's wasn't. Intimate, meaningful, and genuinely joyful. Emma served as her maid of honor, David's sister as his best woman. They exchanged vows they wrote themselves, promising partnership and respect rather than traditional submission. The reception was held at David's estate, a restored 1920s mansion that overlooked the city. As they danced to their first song, "At Last" by Etta James, Sarah caught sight of the garage through French doors. Inside, her Mustang sat beside David's Camaro, two pieces of automotive history perfectly preserved. "Happy," David murmured against her ear. "Complete," she corrected, and meant it. 2 years later, their foundation had awarded over $2 million in microloans to women entrepreneurs. Real entrepreneurs with business plans, market research, and personal investment in their ventures. The success rate was 94%, compared to the industry average of 60%. Sarah ran the foundation while maintaining her consulting practice, work that felt purposeful rather than merely profitable. She and David had found a rhythm that honored both their professional ambitions and their personal relationship. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, forwarded through her lawyer. Mark's handwriting, careful and desperate. "Sarah, I know I have no right to contact you, but I wanted you to know I've spent every day of the last 3 years thinking about what I destroyed. Not just our marriage, but your trust, your grandfather's legacy, your sense of safety in the world. I've been in therapy, prison requirement, and I understand now that I never saw you as a real person with real dreams. You were just a resource to fund my fantasies and my ego. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I understand what I did, and I'll carry that knowledge for the rest of my life. I hope you found happiness. You deserve it." Sarah read the letter twice, then filed it away. Some apologies came too late to matter, but acknowledging them could still serve a purpose. Closure wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it was simply the quiet recognition that a chapter was finished. The mountain curves ahead unfolded like a beckoning hand. Sarah downshifted, feeling the Mustang respond with a rumble that vibrated through the steering wheel and into her bones. The Colorado Rockies rose around her, painted in morning gold. 3 years since she almost lost her, and driving still felt like coming home. "You were right, Grandpa," she whispered, patting the dashboard. The red paint gleamed in the sunlight, every reflection a reminder of what she fought for and what she found. David followed behind her in his Camaro, both of them heading to the classic car meet in Aspen. They'd made this drive dozens of times now, sometimes racing playfully along empty stretches, sometimes cruising together in comfortable convoy. Last week's foundation gala played in her mind. They announced their largest grant yet, $500,000 to Maria Santos, a mechanical engineer developing sustainable automotive parts. Her presentation about honoring automotive heritage while building environmental future moved Sarah to tears. "Your foundation is changing lives," the mayor told her during the cocktail reception. "But more than that, you're changing how we think about supporting women's ambitions." The validation felt different now, not desperate need for approval, but quiet satisfaction in meaningful work. Her shoulders no longer hitched toward her ears in constant tension. The knot that lived between her shoulder blades for years during her marriage had finally dissolved. A sharp curve approached and she eased off the gas, then accelerated through the turn. The engine sang beneath her. In her rearview mirror, she caught David's smile as he followed her line through the mountain road. At the car meet, they parked side by side, their vehicles drawing admiring glances from enthusiasts who understood craftsmanship and history. An elderly man approached, running appreciative eyes over the Mustang's lines. "Boss 429, he said reverently. "My father had one just like this. Taught me to drive in it." "Mine too," Sarah replied, popping the hood to reveal the pristine engine bay. "Some dreams are worth preserving." He nodded, understanding immediately. Some dreams are worth everything. David appeared beside her, sliding his arm around her waist. "Ready for lunch?" he asked. "Marie is meeting us at the lodge to discuss the expansion plans." Sarah took one last look at her car, gleaming in the mountain sunlight, surrounded by fellow enthusiasts who shared her passion. This machine represented more than transportation now. It was proof that some betrayals could be overcome, some losses could be recovered, and some dreams were strong enough to survive even the worst human behavior. "I'm ready," she told her husband, and meant it in every possible way. The mountain road stretched ahead, curves unmarked by guilt or fear, just endless possibility under an infinite sky. Behind her, Mark served 8 more years in federal prison. Jessica worked the night shift at a truck stop diner, her yoga instructor dreams permanently shattered. Their choices destroyed their lives, but ultimately strengthened hers. Sarah learned to value respect over comfort, authenticity over convenience, and genuine partnership over financial security. She accelerated into the next curve, windows down, the future unfolding before her like the perfect stretch of open highway. For the first time since she was 9 years old, watching Grandpa's hands on a stranger's engine, she wasn't just enjoying her dream. She was living it completely, surrounded by someone who valued it as much as she did. Some stories end with revenge. Others end with justice. The best ones end with transformation, and the quiet recognition that the most beautiful victories were the ones that honored both the past and the future. The Mustang purred beneath her, carrying her toward whatever came next, secure in the knowledge that her dreams, all of them, were finally safe.